Well, welcome into another episode of Bash's College Football Show. It's a little bit different from what we've been doing around here. So if you want more regular content, make sure you do subscribe for more college football stuff. Today, we are talking about this whole Brendan Sorsby situation. Didn't want to have an instant reaction because I did want to get some facts right and really think about it, sit on it, stew on it a little bit, and just kind of see where it takes us. And I think I got a lot of good general points to talk about. So if you're interested in this video, make sure to leave a like. Brendan Sorsby, the Texas Tech quarterback who comes in from Cincinnati, previously at Indiana. Before that, he takes a leave of absence and he's undergoing treatment for a gambling addiction. That's what's going on over here. Now, there's a lot of layers to this, so let's just start with the accusations, the rumors that are out there. So the two things that you can basically confirm to some degree, and from what I've heard, it was him betting on himself and betting on his own team. He was making bets on his team with Indiana. That's a key piece. I do want to circle back to that, but before that, we want to definitely talk about everything that we know. We definitely know that the gambling problem that's cited is at a Cincinnati Reds game that he was at. He was betting $1 to $2.50 on pitch by pitch bets, basically like pitch speeds, ball strike, etc., result of the pitch, stuff like that. So those are the big things that we want to talk about, and I'm going to dive deeper into the situation with the Indiana bets, because to be quite honest with you, the baseball bets don't seem like a big deal, and later on, very much towards the end of the video, we're going to circle back to that. So here's ultimately what we're looking at here. You're looking at a situation with Brendan Sorsby that he is accused of 100% violating NCAA rules. And we've had this situation in the past. If you remember the whole Hunter Decker situation, if you don't look it up, if you don't remember it, Hunter Decker's at Iowa State was supposed to be the quarterback, I believe, before Rocco Becht, if I'm not mistaken, and he just got suspended for betting on his own games. And there was a lot of stuff where it was like they had the inside track on knowledge, and then it got to a certain point where he could have been potentially betting on games that he was participating in against himself, and other players were involved too. There's definitely a little bit of parallels to that, but there's also parallels to the John Mateer accusation from prior to the season, just before the season, with basically saying that John Mateer was betting on his own games and a bunch of other games while he was at Washington State, and it was before he was even a starter. So that was a little bit part to do with it. Brendan Sorsby did start at Indiana under Tom Allen before Curt Cignetti showed up, and John Mateer was not playing at that moment. Now, how much does that really matter? I think it matters a little bit because there's really not much he could do to influence the game, but he would also, again, have prior knowledge of favorable matchups and stuff like that, and what the team was feeling comfortable with. It's a big deal why betting on NFL games in general is a problem, because obviously those players and those staff members kind of have an inside track on what they believe is going to happen. Now, you can say that there's parallels when it comes to those situations. So if you're a Texas Tech fan, you can point to that and be like, see, he's gotten out. He might be able to play. But the problem is with John Mateer, there was never any sort of admission of guilt. There was pretty much rumors, reports, accusations, but never an admission by either Oklahoma, Washington State, or John Mateer. So you can't really say that these situations are 100% the same, because what you're dealing with here is action confirming that the reports are true, and it was a statement and a notice that Texas Tech, their university, their athletic department, ended up releasing. So ultimately, we're going to jump right to Texas Tech's action when it comes to Mr. Old Brendan Sorsby. What is going on here? I have a theory for sure, and this is where we're really going to dive deeper into that baseball thing. I don't really think it's much of a gambling addiction. I don't want to downplay it. Maybe it is, okay? And if it is, I hope he's getting the help he deserves. But I think that this is a theory, very conspiratorial. I think that this was encouraged by the football program and by the athletic department and by the compliance department to try to get out in front of this. All of them working in cahoots together to try to get out in front of this. And I think what they're trying to set up is a case for hardship, a case for a problem that's being addressed, has been addressed, and it will no longer be a problem in the future. That's the case that they're going to make. Don't know if it's going to hold up, but the problem is the NCAA has been losing all sorts of court cases that even if they end up with an eligibility ruling here, they can go and appeal the eligibility ruling in court like they are doing with these 6-year guys in certain circumstances. So because they say, oh, we addressed the problem, we handled the problem, look at this, he's clean, he's not a gambling addict anymore. Brother, I'm going to say this happens all the time. This happens all the time at these baseball games. You get a few drinks in you as a normal human being. I've heard this before. As a normal human being, you start going and just having fun placing little $1, $2.50, somewhere in that range, bets pitch by pitch with your buddies. That is easily a conceivable non-gambling addiction type. He wasn't betting hundreds of dollars on these pitches. This wasn't a real problem, especially for a collegiate athlete in the era of NIL, who's being, by the way, given a ton of this. No, he's going through this treatment, in my opinion, because that fact alone, that they had to cite the Reds game pitch-by-pitch bets, that just sounds like a little bit of harmless fun to me, and it doesn't necessarily sound like a serious problem. If it was $100 to $250 bets and that was the report, I'd be red flag, sure. That screams to me like there's a red flag that something else is going on here. Because this seems like he was being a young, dumb kid in college making a mistake that John Mateer is alleged to have done, that Hunter Deckers and a couple others on Iowa State's team under Matt Campbell had done, and he got caught. But he got caught by the compliance department. He got admissions somewhere. They got a tip somewhere, or maybe it was Sorsby himself admitting it. Who knows how they found out? But all of this stuff coming out was completely self-reported. And that's the angle that people aren't thinking about there. So I think they're going to make a case for Brendan Sorsby to be able to play in the 2026 season. And I think that that's the current action. And like I said, I could be wrong. If he's actually got a problem, I really think that he needs to address it. I think that if people are having problems with that stuff out there, get help. That's all I can say from this chair. Get help if you're having problems like that. But given the circumstances that we know, seems like he was doing something dumb with something he was probably pretty confident in. And the real question for me is, did he win? Did he win? Because if he won, and he only did it a couple of times and he always won when he did it, that doesn't tell me problem. That tells me dumb kid mistake in college. And you're seeing this with the enhancement of sports gambling throughout the country. I mean, it is crazy. Everybody's doing it now. So that's ultimately my takeaway on it. You can comment down below if you don't like it. But the thing we got to talk about just a little bit is Texas Tech's quarterback plan if they do not have Sorsby, because this is a big deal. So I obviously want to cite this fact. Obviously, they added Kirk Francis in the portal. I believe they added somebody else, not this year, but the previous year, who's still on roster. Will Hammond's the plan. And look, right at the same time that all of this stuff is happening, Will Hammond is starting to throw. He blew up his knee. It was a bad injury, and he wasn't expected to be back. A huge part, in my opinion, why they needed a quarterback, because they didn't know the timeline on when he would be back. There were rumors that mid-October. Well, now that timeline's kind of being moved up to closer to the start of the season. And if you don't have Sorsby, you don't have Hammond, I think you're going to be able to start against Abilene Christian and Oregon State before that Houston game with Kirk Francis being your comfortable starter. And the other thing, too, is if you can get a guy who can manage the game well, the roster around, and we got plenty of time to talk about that roster. We got the roster previews going on. The roster around the quarterback is going to be good enough. But Will Hammond, I believe, is going to be the choice. He really played well as a true freshman, being thrown into the fire before the injury last year. He doesn't have a ton of experience, but he has a lot more experience than what you really would expect out of a true freshman who was a backup. And at the end of the day, he did play in some pretty contentious situations. He's going to be ready to play. At least on the mental side of things, he will be. And physically, it's just a matter of let the rehab take its process, let it go well, and don't put him in a risky situation. And I think that's what Texas Tech's going to do, especially if they're without Sorsby. Obviously, that depth is hurt. But Will Hammond, he's not the guaranteed future for the program, but he is a potential option for the future of the program, being a second-year player within this Texas Tech team in that quarterback room. And like I said, I think the biggest reason why they went and spent the money on Brendan Sorsby was because of Hammond's injury. I think if Hammond didn't have the injury, maybe they bring in somebody to battle with him, but I don't think that they're spending the money like they did on Brendan Sorsby. And I also think, by the way, when we're just going general about this Texas Tech quarterback situation, too many people are reading way too deep into the fact that they did spend the money for Sorsby. They were desperate because at that time, it was looking like mid-October for Will Hammond. They didn't have a plan outside of Will Hammond. They did take Kirk Francis. They're not being dumb about all of this situation. They knew their quarterback situation, and the quarterback situation with Will Hammond has improved, and it looks better. So I would not completely write off the possibility that not only Will Hammond can come in and be the starter, he could be the starter and play really well. So ultimately, should we be super concerned about Texas Tech if they can't get Sorsby back? No. No, we shouldn't be. And that's my takeaway at the end of the day. Hope this all works out for Brendan Sorsby one way or another. He definitely broke the rules. I obviously think that if you break those rules, you should be punished consistently with those who did confirm break the rules, like a Hunter Deckers. And I think that I think he probably shouldn't play this upcoming season. That's just me. Hope for the best, though, for Brendan Sorsby and that he can come back from this. I'll see you guys in the next video.